Could you please share your name and a description of your professional background?
My name is Dr. Roseina Britton. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm a national certified counselor. I am also a clinical faculty member in the graduate program here at Southern New Hampshire University. I am also in a lot of different positions and roles, honestly, but I hope that answered your question.
So, how would you define self care?
Well, to me, self care is definitely it's intentional. Sometimes it can include more holistic actions, that help you with your mental, emotional, physical, and sometimes even spiritual being. So a lot of times self care can come off as if it's something like, oh, I'm just going to go get a massage or I'm going to go light a candle. And those are wonderful ways of doing self care. But sometimes self care is also, kind of doing that self growth. So that might mean reading a book about, personal development, financial development. Those are all things that go into self care. And so sometimes it's really just honoring your limits and protecting your peace.
So, why would you say self care is important?
Self care is important because if you think of yourself as a vessel, right, and you are pouring into others, especially in the work that I do as a counselor, I'm pouring into someone. I am giving something of service to other people. And at times, if my vessel has a crack or a hole, or if it's empty, I have to make sure that I take care of that vessel, right? You can't pour from an empty cup, as most people know as the phrase. So we often live in a culture that, glorifies the hustle mentality, right? Overachievement, perfectionism. But in reality, that leads us into a lot of stress. That leads us into burnout. Compassion fatigue is definitely real in what I do, right? So it's important for me because it requires me to check in with myself, because it in habit, and an experience, we tend to neglect ourselves. And I think that's where the harm can come in, is that we get to a point where that burnout gets to like that tipping point, and it's like, man, I'm gonna crash out, like some of the people are saying now, right? And so before we get to that point, we have to check in with ourselves, and that's where self-care comes in. It's not when we get to the breaking point. It's actually doing those check-ins with ourselves, whether that's hourly, daily, weekly, even monthly.
What would you say are some benefits of practicing self care to someone who maybe hasn't gone into practicing self care before?
I mean, practicing self care is the major benefit of it is just recognizing that that's a way of loving yourself. And it's actually saying that when your wellness is a priority, that means that you're putting boundaries in place for not only people, but for yourself. When we hear the term boundaries, we think, oh, that's for everyone else. But really, boundaries are set up for us too. So I think it allows us to create stronger boundaries. I think it creates an ability to have emotional stability. And it also gives us a little mental clarity, because when you take a break and you come back, you feel a little bit more alert, a little bit more aware. So it really is beneficial when you have those practices, because you can come back feeling more empowered, feeling more competent in what you're doing, and how you're able to reduce your stress also is an added benefit to that. It helps you improve your sleep. It helps you improve your hormones. So self care, it has levels of benefits for sure.
So, how would you recommend someone start practicing self care?
I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed and we start making out a list of all the things that we want to do. And so the first thing that I would say is start small. It doesn't have to be anything, hard or even expensive for that matter, right? Because again, going back to that conversation of, okay, self care looks like I got to pay for a massage or I have to pay for gym membership. We can start with small things, even as small as, okay, you know what? I realize I need to drink more water, right? Or I realize that I need to get a little bit more sleep. So being aware of the fact that there are areas that you want to improve in taking care of yourself, and replacing it with things that actually nourish you and make you feel reinvigorated, right? And it's a simple routine. You can have a routine for your bedtime. You can have a routine for your morning. If that means that you're adding daily walks or 10 minutes of journaling, it doesn't have to be anything super elaborate, but being very intentional about adding those aspects of self-care throughout your day.
So you already kind of answered this a bit, but are there any other self-care strategies or activities that you would particularly recommend?
I would definitely recommend finding activities that really make you happy, right? So, again, going back to that example of going to the gym. Let's be honest, not everybody likes going to the gym, and that's okay. But if there's some other physical activity that you really enjoy, like jumping rope or going for a walk or kickboxing or dancing, those are things that you want to do that adds to your self-care activities. So movement is medicine for the body. I will always say that. Music, live music, arts, and there is live art actually. Those are things that can be very healing. So making sure that you're doing those things to get your body moving. Another thing is like what we eat also impacts our mood. It impacts our energy level, right? You get sugar, you get a little antsy, you get a little wired up. But then those same sugars that you find in candy, those things cause you to crash, right? So we want to add nutrients and nutritional value to the things that we're eating so that we get the natural energy. So replacing candy with some berries and fruits. Those are little things that you can do, just simple things to change how you're actually taking care of your body. So movement, your nutrition, and then lastly, just taking those moments to just remember to breathe. Just remember to take some deep breaths because we forget that that breath is always with us and it's free.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
So I do want to add this. At times, and I've been guilty of this, where I would say, after a long day's work, I'm gonna treat myself to a cup of tea and a nice bath. And honestly, I don't think that self care should be treated as a reward system, right? This is something that you're doing for yourself regardless if you were the most productive being for the day or if you were the absolute laziest person for the day. And sometimes honestly, being lazy is actually a form of self-care, right? Just taking the time to rest is a part of your care. So self-care is not luxury, is not luxurious, and it's something that we all need to do on an individual level but also collectively.